Well, good evening from Amaury on the 27th of September. The weeks and months passing quickly now, eh? It's 2022. I was up in Lochernhead, Strathyre and Balwhidder today, so I'll probably do a separate load for that. I've zipped up here just because it's such a wonderful night. You know something? You really could carry two handkerchiefs. Sometimes the beauty of the landscape just makes you want to cry, and one handkerchief is not enough to wipe your tears. It's absolutely stunning. I'm not joking. It's clouded over a wee bit. The sun's on its way down to its bed already. But being a new moon in Libra, as I kind of mentioned previously, probably get that first signs of that either tonight or tomorrow. It was the 25th it appeared, so yeah, a couple of days, 3 days. And you should see that in the west-southwest where the sun will set. So look out for that in the western horizon for a few days. So it's been a busy day in a lot of respects. But I'm not going to give you a whole rundown of my life because it's not, well, it is my vlog, so what I was thinking just a few moments ago as I came through the glen, the times when someone absolutely wastes your time. I mean, I'm talking about an expensive waste of time. Well, when things were much more cordial, let's put it that way, with up and down. I'm going back several years in this particular matter, but I knew she had been posted or stationed, if that's the right word, because she wasn't the forces, she was a nun. And anyway, she was working in Switzerland. She was in Geneva. And I was busy working, and I received a telex from came into the department, and it was of an urgent telex. And all it said was, bring book, meet me, Quai de Mont Blanc, last bench. And she gave me a date and time, and that was it. So I knew it was from up and down, but that was all I got. Geneva, meet me, the Quai de Mont Blanc, last bench. Well, I knew exactly where she meant because I'd been there with her previously. You know, I don't know if you know Geneva, but it's in just at the most westerly point of Lake Geneva, where the Point du Mont Blanc bridge, the bridge over the crosses, and there is a selection of benches there, and normally we used to sit there and view the swans and stuff like that. So I knew exactly where she meant, and all she wanted me to go on this particular day at a given time with a book that I'd borrowed off her. So she named it. It was a Terry Pratchett book she was wanting back. I thought, I obviously couldn't send it because she wasn't allowed to give out information on the locations of nunneries and stuff like that. That sort of, there was no, her Mother Superior or any Mother Superior wouldn't allow any external communication. So this is why this was done in a kind of covert way. So I said to my boss, I says, I need some days out. I need to get to Geneva. So he gave me permission, and so anyway, cutting a long story short, I arrived in Geneva, and I got a rather expensive taxi in from the airport into the central Geneva, and I made my way down to the steps and down to the quayside, hence the Quai de Mont Blanc, because you can see Mont Blanc just over the tops of the houses in the distance, and over the buildings, you see. And so I hung about, and it was bitterly cold, very, very cold, even by Geneva standards, it was absolutely Baltic, for want of another expression. I was very chilled. So I stamped my feet and was shaking my arms around my body, and nothing could, get this cold out of my system. And eventually, I joined some people, some homeless people actually, who had built a makeshift fire not far away. How they got away with that in Geneva, I just don't know. But anyway, so I stood, got some warmth, and I waited and I waited and I waited, and I said, "Where the hell is up and down?" But anyway, I waited all day until near dark, and my flight was booked. It was meant to be just a hand over the book, see how she was doing, maybe have a spot of lunch. I would have taken over to the Mandarin Oriental, because she knows we've been there before, and she knows it's one of my favoured hotels for dining, having stayed in the Mandarin Oriental several times out in Hong Kong, both in business and pleasure. But so she knew the place, and I thought maybe she's gone there. So I kind of zipped round, and by this time I was getting rather frantic, and the light was starting to fade rapidly. And of course she hadn't shown face in the Mandarin Oriental. I went back to the Quai de Mont Blanc, and there'd been no sign. I asked the homeless people to keep an eye out for a nun, but no, she never appeared. So I was extremely disappointed. In fact, I was quite gutted, actually. I thought it was just terrible. And I had no idea what had happened. And I knew that I wouldn't find any answers to the reason until we next met up in the UK on our next vacation. So I got back to Geneva airport, and the fog was terrible. It was very cold, and the fog had kind of come down rather quickly. So the flight was eventually delayed. And there was loads of cancellations. And then most of Switzerland had been blanketed with this very, very dense fog. So we were then advised that we were going to be bussed out to Frankfurt for the flight home. And I had to call back to the UK and explain to my boss that problems had arisen, and he wasn't very happy. He said, you're meant to be there for the day and back again. I said, yes, but it's all gone a bit pear-shaped. So anyway, it was a long journey to Frankfurt, and most of us were sleeping on board the bus and stuff. And we got to Frankfurt in the middle of the night, and of course we waited, and the flight eventually got organised, and we were ready for takeoff and stuff like that, and it was just going to be straightforward. I think it was 45 minutes into was it 45 minutes? 25 minutes maybe? We had not long left German airspace, at least, when we got hijacked, and it was terrible. We ended up in Beirut initially. It wasn't a frightening experience. It was just more of an inconvenience. I was worried more about up and down, and of course I was concerned that my boss would be wondering now what the problem was. But we sat in the air terminal at Beirut Airport for about 6 hours before we were given, I think it was passage to leave Lebanese airspace, and we ended up in the Sudan, at Khartoum, and we were there for 3 days. I'm not sure what happened with the hijackers, if their demands had been met or whatnot, but we were certainly all released, and there was no harm to anybody, and I'm not even sure which organisation was behind the hijacking itself. But by the time I got from Sudan to Cairo, we were flown to Cairo, and from Cairo we were then flown to Paris, and then with several hours in Paris being interviewed and stuff by different authorities and stuff, and then given statements and whatnot. This Terry Pratchett book that Up and Down had wanted returned in Geneva, then became almost a living hell. I'd already been away from the UK for 4.5 days at this point, and luckily the hijackers were not fans of Terry Pratchett, and so they didn't take that off me. In fact, I don't think there was many fans of Terry Pratchett books. I always seemed to see them in jumble sales and charity shops when we would pop in to look for any antiquities, you know. But yeah, so this Terry Pratchett book, and anyway, the whole story transpires, and I want to try to finalise this, is 2 years later, when Up and Down had returned from Geneva duties. She'd been skirting around Switzerland and some parts of Liechtenstein in France. She returned to the UK, called me and said, can we go for lunch? And I said, have you not got any explaining to do? But she didn't seem to know what I was talking about. And so I reminded her, and she said, oh yeah, that book, oh yeah. Have you got it? Because I'd like to get it back. That's all she said. But anyway, when we were having lunch, and she was having her favourite smoked salmon, and she likes smoked salmon. I think she eats too much of it when she's out having lunch. But we were sitting there and with a lovely glass of Chablis. In fact, I remember it was a 1968. She seemed to be quite knowledgeable about white wines. And anyway, while we were sitting, I said to her, what happened in Geneva? I'll put photographs up. You'll see some of these pictures anyway I'm talking about of the Quai de Mont Blanc. But yes, I said to her, what happened? And you wouldn't believe what she said to me. She said, I'm sorry I couldn't come down to meet you, but I couldn't find my gloves. I couldn't believe it. She couldn't find her gloves.